Angsty here. All right, so I'm just coming back from a trip and a vacation and or holiday if you're watching this from overseas. And as I'm kind of moving back in, I realized I need to rewick one of my atomizers. I was like, while I was like, you know what I should do? I should go ahead and shoot the review. And I've been kind of waiting for this guy for a little while because while I had some initial impressions of it and some initial, excitement over some of the features, I really wanted to go through and do the normal, put it really through its paces, including bringing it on a vacation to see really how it performs and how it does. So I did so, and I think I'd like to show you kind of what it is. And what it is it goes inside the billet box, and this is the Exocet by Hellfire, or the Attysmith. Now, if you've been watching us for a while, you know that that for a very long time I've been a tank guy. Because my ADV, I still really like in tank, even over my beloved Squonkers that I have been running everything else in for months and months now. But I really like tanks. Back from the K-Fun Mini, God, what came after that? The Rose V2, the Ubertude version 1, version 2. I really like the version 1 better. The Hurricane, the EVL Reaper, all K-Fun 5, of course. All very good atomizers. But the form factor of the billet box Rev 4, once I got a hold of this thing, it kind of started taking the place of my normal tanks, and that even though the vape wasn't necessarily better, form factor is so good. Everything's all tiny, nice, and the little tiny things the size of a pack of smokes or a deck of cards, and it's just really, really good. So I've really been enjoying it even more than my tanks for a while. But when I got a hold of this a couple of weeks ago, holy crap! I was excited about the feature set, but I didn't want to shoot the review because I wanted to go through and do the normal thing of really getting to know it very well, including taking it on vacation. And so I did so, and I got to rebuild it anyway. So I figured I'd record it and show you guys kind of what's up. So let's go on down and see what's going down. Let's go on down, see what's going down. That's not what I say. Let's go up tight and see what's going down. Okay, so I'm actually going to start this segment by showing you something that's not the Exocet. This is a Kanger RBA head version 2, as you can see with the little screw there. This little guy is the rebuildable head that goes inside of an old sub-tank. Now, that may seem a little weird to you, except for the fact that you can now buy from Mystique a racing bridge. And what that is it's a little adapter. Little guy, that little chimney guy here, and it's a little collar that screws onto the 510 threads, like that. And then a little airflow adjustment-y thing that goes on the bottom. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to put this inside a billet box and run it like this. It makes it easier to rebuild, and it makes it easier, well, sort of easy, that once you get that off, and then you get this getting off, and remember, you're doing this with e-liquid all over your hands. You can take this off, and if you happen to have a sub-tank, an old sub-tank head around, you can take it, you can thread it inside of that, and then you can put it on here. Now, and then now, it's kind of like a regular atomizer. You can pulse your coils clean, you can rebuild on here and do whatever you need to do for your billet box. So that's kind of cool, right? Kinda. And that's one of the reasons I actually liked this thing quite a bit, even compared to the Superior in Flavor Uno from Omen. While that thing tasted better, this is a little bit more convenient to rebuild and rewick. So let's get all this out of the way and talk about what we really want to talk about, which is the Exocet by Hellfire. So you'll notice a similar shape. Most of the billet box atomizers have a similar shape, at least at the top, because, well, they're all built to approximate a cartomizer, which is what the billet box was originally built to use. But nowadays we've got quite a few rebuildable options, including this one. So you'll see at the top we've got our little our chimney with a nice O-ring to seal, and at the bottom, let's take care of that real quick. You've got an adjustable airflow control here. So once you put it in there into your billet box, you kind of get it where you want the arrow to be, and you kind of dial it in that way. So that works pretty well. Let's go ahead and tug that guy off. And then what you got left is this. Now, this is something that I do not understand why Hellfire doesn't highlight, because I feel like this is one of the coolest features that's on the Exocet, besides the flavor. So right here at the bottom, 510 threads built into the device. So you pull the thing off, pull your airflow adjustment off. Boom. You are now mounted onto 510 threads for pulsing and building happiness. I think that is super cool. By the way, this thing is basically, what it really is kind of like a 14 millimeter atomizer, which Hellfire are very familiar with building. And I almost lost my thingy. There you go. It's basically a 14 millimeter atomizer. It's made of 304 stainless, and with the exception of obviously the airflow adjustment guy there, and built really well. So let's go ahead and show you this. Also, I want to say thank you, by the way, to Coilmaster, who sent over this little guy for me to use on the show and on the reviews. So this is part of their RBA third V3 RBA kit, which I purchased the last couple of sets, their rebuilding sets, because I quite like them. They sent this one over to me, which includes this little guy, which is really, really cool. So I'm probably going to use this to build because, oh, well, honestly, it's quite convenient. So here's our deck. You can see we have two flathead poles there for our terminals. We've got a couple little bumps here, and I'll show you what those things are useful for in just a minute. But it's really quite simple once you really break it down here. The chimney adapter is just a little press fit guy, and it doesn't use threads. It uses an O-ring, which helps keep everything nice and tidy and tiny to take up as little room inside of the boro tank as possible, which is a good thing, to be perfectly honest. All right, so let's pop a coil on this thing. All right, here we go. So I'm going to pull the build off. I've quickly, just so you know, I've got a 2.5 millimeter build in here. This is I think it's 9 wrap of 27 gauge A1 Canthal. So we'll pull that off of our little jig, and I've got just a 2.5 millimeter rod that I use. Now I also just wanted to show you that, that obviously you can do your coil up, or you can do it down. I have found that down works the best because it puts it kind of in line with your juice flow channels, which we'll see in just a minute. And by the way, while I'm putting this thing on here, I also wanted to mention that I did some experimentation for you guys and for myself to see how how best this is going to work. And I normally really quite like 3 millimeter coils, but while building this thing, I noticed that that the 3 millimeter, it restricts the airflow just a hair, which might be good. You might like that. I thought it was a little bit too much personally, so I moved down to the 2.5, and I also found that the 3, it seemed to not wick quite as well. Now that does not hold true for most atomizers that I use, but that seemed to be the case for this guy. So so that's why I've been using 2.5, and I also have been slightly spacing the build. So there is also that. So there we go. Here's our coil mounted up. I'm going to trim these guys and not make you watch that. Here is a closer view of our coil now that I've got it pulsed and slightly spaced. I also wanted to show you that here on the edge, at the side, when you cut your leads off, you want to make sure you cut them super flush, because we're going to have our top cap. It's going to slide right down very close to this, very close. Ooh, off cam, out of frame. So you don't want to hard short out here on either side. I also wanted to show you that we've got our coils slightly spaced, and I've been doing that by pulsing, and when we're a little bit warmer, just kind of strumming out, putting the inside, the lower jaw in, just clamping, just giving a little strum out, and we end up with a slightly spaced coil, which I've been quite liking. The other thing I want to show you is the height, and how I do that is I throw in a 2.5 millimeter rod. These are some you can get from Coilmaster, but I've also got some that I made from some rods that I pulled off of Amazon that I've been using for quite some time. These guys, you want to make sure we are just a little bit off, just a little off deck. Actually, it looks like we're a little bit high. I'm actually going to put this guy in and pull this down just a hair. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, there we go. Right now, you can see that little divot right there in the front. That's where our opening is going to be for our juice. So I'm going to get that guy on in just a minute, but first we need some wick. All right, so now you're going to pull some of your favorite cotton. Of course, I use Chattos because, well, I think it's the best stuff on the market. And you can see what I do. I gotta just leave my scraps from other addies on top and use that. This one happens to be something that's going to be about right for our uses here. Now, one thing besides that build that I told you about that I've noticed about this is it does like to be wicked quite tightly in this little guy. So this actually lends to problems getting us in there quickly. So bear with me for just a minute, because you really got to get this thing really, really tightly in there. So when the so-called Scottish roll came out a while back, it was pretty humorous to a lot of us that have been building like this for a while. We know that tight works really, really well. So that's what we're going to do here too. And I tried looser and stuff because it wasn't wicking quite a bit, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back and do this thing tight as hell, and that ended up being about right. All right, so you can see we've got our slightly spaced coil. We can see we've got it wicked really, really well. So I'm just going to set our top cap down, kind of wiggle it to make sure we're not going to catch any various cotton bits that I've pulled off of here on both sides. Snap them down on top of that O-ring. So once you get your scissors, I'm going to cut, and it depends on your scissors. I cut mine just off. These actually cut too close to the barrel. I like having a little bit of cotton, maybe about 1 millimeter or so, sitting on the outside. So I'll probably do right about like this. You'll see what I'm talking about there. See about that? Because once we get it wicked and wet, it's going to expand up, and you will see what we're left with, just off, just like that. So at the end, we've got our little channels that are covered up, and ooh, you get a tiny little gap there, and that's okay because boom, done. Because you had just a little bit on the outside to fill in any little tiny little hole that you got from rolling, and you can see your coil down in there. Now I like to kind of get us started, as most people do that build, and kind of get the cotton wet to prepare it for the inevitable delicious juice to flow through. This is just my ADV for whatever reason. I'm not really sure. It's because I made it with Music City Vape Sauce, because they're awesome people and they make great juice. You ever had any Ruby Rouge juice? Same people that make it. Gaslight sells it. It's awesome. Product placement over. So I usually get this guy nice and tight. So now that we are kind of prepared to go here, we can pull this guy off of our mod or whatever you choose to build it on. Kind of slide our billet box pieces over here. Oh look, we're upside down. There we go. And we can kind of set us down in here like this. It's not rocket surgery, guys. You can probably do this in your sleep if you've got a billet box. Now I do like to have this thing kind of lined up a little square so it looks presentable. There you go. It kind of sets right like this. I'm going to get a little bit of e-liquid here on this O-ring. I'm going to work it through. Now I will tell you that this is pretty tight here on the top. Pretty tight, but it'll go. There you go. You see it kind of mated straight into there. Oh, I guess that was kind of a dirty sounding word, wasn't it? Last step, we get our airflow adjustment guy on. He just kind of sets on there right like that. Now, if you have never taken the glass off of your Boro, be very careful. You want to make sure this gasket is quite well lubricated with e-liquid, and you also want to make sure that your glass goes on. Can you see how this is cut just slightly at an angle up like this direction? And that's to kind of save your top of your gasket there. So well lubricated with e-liquid, and slide her on like that. And then we're going to get our e-liquid. And we're going to dump. Delicious. I actually usually hold at a bit of an angle. I'm sorry if it's going to be shadowy here. I'll hold it up a little bit so you can get the most liquid into your tank. Oh, I can see it now. Somebody's going to say, "Oh, my OCD is popping." That you look, this wick is a little bit rotated outside. Well, yes, you can rotate it around if that's going to bother you that much. I try to get close and then I don't worry about it because I'm about to vape it anyway, so who cares? So, next up, or last up rather, the billet box. Zoop. And drop her in there. Now, the last step here is your top nut, or your cool Omen integrated drip tip, which doesn't need one. And I'm a little e-liquidy, so I'm going to have to get my, my towel to tighten her down. Alright, let's see what we see. Oh yeah. Look at that. Just right. Now I'm all excited. Now I'm all excited. You guys got me excited. So this is not necessary, but this is something I will often do. I'll often get it back to the top plate back on there and hold it together and hold a finger over the airflow as well, and just give it some dry pulls. Just to kind of get all that business kind of started. I don't know if that's necessary. It makes me feel better, so I do it. All right, let's get out of here. Let's go back up. Man, good, damn good, damn good. That was the Exocet by the Attysmith or Hellfire. I'm actually not sure if it's Hellfire or the Attysmith. They seem like they go by the two names interchangeably. Anyway, so yes, I'm trying to decide if we should go pros or cons first. Let's go cons first because I think we normally do pros. Here's the cons. It's just con, and it's not even really much of a con. It's just a thing that I think needs to be said. It's not cheap. The Exocet is 90 Great British pounds, and that's without VAT and without shipping. By the time you pay for another, I think it's £9.50 for shipping to the States. It's $9.50, and you convert that over to good old American greenbacks, and it's 121 bucks, give or take, and that's with a very favorable exchange rate at the moment. 121 bucks. I've paid a lot more for an atomizer, but not for the billet box, if that makes any sense. You know, the Reaper from EVL, or even the K-Fun. I think the K-Fun 5 is 120 bucks. And that's not a terribly expensive atom. You know, there's a lot of ones that are a lot more expensive, but for whatever reason, for the billet box, it feels like it's a little expensive. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Again, it's not much of a con. It's just a data point for you. Fate, budget, hand, and all that junk. Pros. Flavor, town is what I wrote there in my notes. I know that's a dumb way to say it, but I don't know how else to say it. Previously, before this, I would have said it was the Uno that had the flavor and the billet box 4 down, hands down, without question. This easily rivals it. It's really, really good, especially with my particular ATV. Abolishment tastes fantastic in here, as good as any that I've tried, really, to be honest, in any other tank, billet box or not, for that matter. The Reaper might take it by hair, but not by much. This has got a little more air, which I actually kind of like. At least that's an option. The other huge pro is one that, again, I think I may have mentioned this before. I don't know why the Attysmith doesn't like highlight this like in flashing letters, but it's got 510 threads straight on the atomizer with no adapters or whatever. You just freaking take it out of here and screw it down into a mod or the Coilmaster thingy or whatever, and then pulse it clean or use that to pulse it and build it. That's awesome. It's super, super awesome. It makes it super, super convenient to build. I can't emphasize this enough. That is an awesome feature. The only other ones that I can think of is the Kanger one. And you got to have the adapter, and you got to actually have the adapter or buy it somewhere else, and you got to half unassemble it and put it. It's a pain in the ass. This thing's built into it. Awesome. The NX Cardo, to be fair, also has 510 threads on it because it's really a cartomizer, and that's what this is obviously made to do. And a cartomizer is also made to throw it onto a mod, so that one has it on there as well. But this is a Cotton Addy, and cotton's better. I know, mesh people, don't freak out. You can put mesh in here too, by the way. Our buddy Josh has done that already, and he says it's really good. So fine. The last thing is it's well made from quality materials because it's Hellfire. Whether or not you like their atomizers, they do tend to the higher end, smaller atomizers, which some people don't get on with. But what you have to say about them is they're made very, very, very well out of quality materials. Not that other things aren't. I mean, the Uno's made out of great quality materials too. It's made out of titanium, and I think titanium's awesome. But 304 stainless is just straight up a little bit nicer than like the Kanger head. It's not quite as made as nice stuff. What do you want from me? And that's really about it. You got 3 huge pros, including flavor and ease of build. And the con is it's a little more expensive than other normal build box things. No brainer. That's the short of it. Is this thing, if you like a build box, it's a no brainer. Buy one. That's it. Angsty out. Y'all take it easy. Bye.